Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause and super excited today because I have literally the best couple ever on the show today. Ken and Maris are literally America's master connectors. They are the relationship factor. We're going to talk about their book and all the good stuff. So I want to welcome you guys to the show. How are you today?
Hello. We're so happy to see you and be a part of all the amazing work you're doing. So thank you for sharing your community with us. We're thrilled to be here.
Absolutely. You guys are so near and dear to my heart. And I just want to, before I have you introduce yourself, I just want to tell the listeners a little bit about you guys. I have known Ken and Maris for a little over, I don't know, maybe 2 years now. Time flies, but met them in a leadership development program and just fell in love with both of them individually for sure. And then collectively as a couple, they're so amazing. And we're going to dig into that today. But I would love for you guys to introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Great. Well, I'm Ken of the Ken and Maris, so in case you were confused. But I think my just background over the years really have worked so much in creating programs and for other people, creating programs which involve sometimes music, video, live performance, creating moments where teams can come together, organizations, cohorts can come together, and then with purpose present to them various aspects of whatever the program is. And really it's about, so as part of that, I'm a singer-songwriter as well. So I love that. I can't help it. It just, it happens. It's my passion. And I think of everything in terms of lyrics and songs and
rhythm.
And rhythm. Yeah, exactly. Which has come into play very strongly in the work that we're doing in relationships. So
talk about rhythm and relationships. I'd love to hear about that. Maris, introduce yourself first, and then I'd love to talk about rhythm in relationships, the R's.
Cool.
So I'm Maris of Ken and Maris, America's Master Connectors. And so, part I want to build on what Ken was talking about. So Ken and I come from a world of being large scale and intimate event producers. And so our whole background has been centered on relationship marketing. And so we became relationship marketing experts over the course of 30 plus years of building experiences that created a connection, right? As Ken talked about it, between an audience and their intended end. And so whether or not that was engaging in social causes and issues, so we've worked on a lot of cause-related programs, have produced Super Bowl halftimes and papal visits and worked for the White House and have really always been centered, especially on one of the most recent programs we did around America's 400th anniversary, on connecting and uniting diverse voices to bring together humanity around various issues, causes, and impact. And so from that, when COVID happened, everything shifted after Ken and I had been on the road about 260 days a year for 10 years for a lot of C-suite corporate level clients, as we said, heads of state, heads of household. And in that experience, we came out of that and said, how do we shift what we're doing, still continue to make an impact, touch lives, and really serve? And that was really how the RFactor was born, was out of a lot of research. So I'll touch on it and then we'll let Ken pick up. We're together nearly 24/7 for almost 20 years, right? So we live together, love together, work together, choose each other every day in life and in work. Most people think that's a little crazy.
I was just going to say that when Maris and I started working together, we both had separate companies. And so we did the big M, which is merge our companies, before we did the little M of getting married.
which happened almost 8 years later. So in our work over the years, because people always look at us and literally every time someone recognizes, okay, hang on, you work together, you have this incredible romance together, and oh, by the way, You have a personal life and you don't kill each other every day. How does that work? It is hysterical to us that it is literally the one thing. We've been asked that question a million times. I don't think anyone has ever not asked us that question when they recognize. And so the truth is that I was a little nervous to analyze it over the years.
No, Maris.
A little type A. And I thought, oh my gosh, if we analyze this thing, we're going to break it. So let's just go with it, trust it, and allow how it works. Then we started to recognize that there were patterns and consistencies in why our relationship worked. So we wondered if there was something more to it that could be shared with the world. And what we realized in that is that the flow and the rhythm that works with us, the in sync, the connectedness, at the core, there are 4 key factors of why that works, right?
And so we got into this rhythm idea, which as a singer-songwriter, and Maris is a dancer and she has a great voice as well, I should say. But as a singer-songwriter, I'm into the rhythms. I understand that. And when we started dissecting our relationship and then looking at other relationships, we realized that that we all have these rhythms that we go through. We wake up in the morning and sometimes we wake up and it's a rhythm of smooth, cool jazz, or it's a rhythm of rock, rap, country, it's driving. So we face those rhythms, we embrace them as we wake up from the time we wake up in the morning. So looking at those different varied rhythms and we can experience all of them in a day, looking at those rhythms, we came up with these universal relationship rhythms, which we can talk about.
Beautiful. The R's.
The
R factor is relationship immersion. We are literally in relationship with someone or something from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to bed. And by the way, through our sleep, because who is our most important relationship with first?
Right?
It's
me, myself, and I.
Ourselves. And in the work that we do in corporate and individual, it is remarkable. We would tell you that 85%, when we ask people who your most significant relationship is with, 85% of people will say someone else besides themselves, right? Because that's how we're trained. So they'll say their faith, their family, their community, their spouse. Yes, all of those things are important. But if we don't start with the inside job first, then we can't be that for others. And we're not really taught that growing up. We're taught very often to serve out, to respect others first. But when we can ground ourselves in that, it shifts everything. And that's how we step into then the relationship rhythm circle.
That's beautiful. I want to get to those 4 R's and dissect each one of them and unpack them. But first, I want to know how this, so you guys, you've been in this relationship, right? You guys have been couples. And so that work that you did to go from where you were to where you are now, I want you to talk about that journey a little bit, because I know that journey is not an easy journey. And so how did you guys navigate that? How did you stick in it? Because what kept coming up when you guys were talking was perseverance, because a lot of people will walk away versus stick in it and find their way.
Well, I'll start with the genesis of it for us. When we started dating and we realized that there was a connection between the two of us, and that's a different story. But Maris had a client, Harvard University, so the Kennedy School, and Maris was doing the 25th anniversary for the Kennedy School. And she said to me, okay, so we're dating. And she said, would you like to you want to do this together? So I said, sure. But we both agreed that if it doesn't work, working really closely, because when you're in an event, it's just totally a connection. If it doesn't work, we're okay, that's fine. We just know that doesn't work. Well, we got into the event and into rehearsal, and we were ready for rehearsal. And I looked at Maris and said, okay, so do you want to direct the rehearsal or do you want me to? And so that was just an indication to me that that we're fungible, that we could move in, and that was the relationship. And that really grounded us.
And without competition, right? So really early on, because we knew this relationship marketing piece was critical, we knew we had something, because over the course of our 10 years, we've worked with nearly 300 celebrities or heads of state or families or executives, whatever that looks like. So in polling that and looking at, okay, respect, responsibility, reframing, and resilience, those 4, when they work in sync. So we literally set out 2.5 years ago as COVID happened and said, okay, we're committed to a transformational life. What does that look like? So we literally created a vision, and we created a practice that we work with our clients on called D.R.I.V.E. First, you identify what's the desire. Our desire was to be able to bring this relationship work to the world. We were clear. We weren't clear how, but we thought, okay, we want to do a TEDx talk. We think there's a book in here. What does that look like? Yeah, right. That was 2.5 years ago. So what does that look like? So the D.R.I.V.E. method is what we used. Desire, what do you want? You literally unapologetically, we put down, okay, here's what we want. Then the R piece to that was where the eye opener came in. What are the relationships that it will take to support us to actually make that happen, right? So then we wrote down all the relationships, and we started to realize, wow, these four words keep coming forward in all of our work. It's been consistent. Then we went from there and we created our intention. So our intention was, we intend to do this, right? We intend that this is what will happen in whatever that amount of time. Then we created our vision statement. And then we stepped into committed and empowered action, and we wrote the plan. So now, beautiful. 2.5 years later, TEDx Talk, we're featured leaders in 13, leader-centric books as kind of featured authors in collaborative books. And our new book came out about 5 weeks ago. So
awesome, beautiful. Hold it up so we can see it. I know those of you on the podcast, the audio can't see it, but yeah, the RFactor, it's beautiful. I'm about a third of the way through it.
So to your point, so I think that the whole idea was, what was that natural progression? We were all looking at a different perspective and reframing, right? It's a great exercise in COVID. We really called COVID our crowning transformation, because it shifted everything for us into a whole new way of thinking about how do we deliver to create an experience that moves people, that can still create something for them that's not, that is experiential, I guess is the point.
Right. And corona is crown
in Spanish.
Interesting.
Yeah. So so for us, we said, we just played on that and thought, this is a crowning moment for us.
Yeah.
It was tragic and so many awful things happened, but nonetheless, it affected the whole world.
And a great exercise in one of the R's, reframing and resilience, both of those.
Yeah, I mean, COVID happened, and it really, one of the beautiful things that came out of that was people were really able just to pause. Like, I get to pause and figure out what I really want in my life and where I really want to take my life. And what you guys have built off of that is really, really extraordinary. So what I want to do is I want to dive real quick, and we don't have to go super deep, but I want
to just say one more thing. You have a phrase which I love about that idea of pausing, PB&J.
PBJ. PBJ, it seems so simple, but pause, breathe, and choose joy. And so you guys took a pause. You started to breathe and go, okay, what do we really want? And you chose joy. You chose to go in a direction where it was super clear. And I watch you guys on a daily basis, and you are both lit up. You're clear. Your vision is where, you're moving towards your vision. And so many times I see entrepreneurs just kind of flailing a little bit, and it's because their vision isn't clear. So I love the RFactor. I love that the vision is clear. And I want you guys to talk about leading versus following, because something that you said when you were talking about your own journey of the RFactor and everything, what I heard you say is that you learned when to lead and when to follow, each of you individually. And so I want you to talk a little bit about that and what that means in a relationship.
So I think that the first thing to note is to really ask your audience. We ask people this all the time. Ask your audience, do you believe you're a leader?
Right.
Now, again, this ranks right up there with 85% of people will say no. Say no. It's crazy.
That just happened. I did a talk last week, literally 400 people in the room. Who believes they're a leader? Not everybody raised their hand. And this was a leadership conference.
Well, right.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. And so part of what we bring forward in your personal life, and let's start there. We wake up in our personal space. How do we lead? Do we not think we're leading every day? So we're building a schedule every day. We're being responsible, getting ourselves out of bed. We're going to school. We're going to work. We're eating. We're feeding the family. We're feeding the kids. We're paying our bills. Did I not just describe what a CEO does in a company?
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
we are the leaders of our lives. So the first thing is we get to recognize that we are leaders, and that in couplehood, we also really recognize when we look at the four rhythms of relationships, like literally respect being the first one, it's about being present. In couplehood, it is about being present. In business, it's about being present. It's listening to the other person, not waiting to figure out what you're going to say next, but truly hearing them, leading with your heart and not so focused on what am I going to say, how am I going to show up. Just be you from that place. And that's really one of the first grounding aspects of a personal relationship, because with that comes also communication, and stepping from that into responsibility. Also, this big word that can be a bad word or a good word, expectations, right?
Oh, yeah.
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 And so the importance is that it begins with this connection. Every relationship, no matter what we're doing, begins with a connection. Whether or not it's the guy you're buying your car from, your boss at work, your team at work, your spouse, your kids, your, work, it doesn't matter. It all begins with a connection.
So, okay, so connections are amazing. What happens when you lose the connection? That's where I wanted to go with you, because just because we have connection right now does not mean that next week that connection is going to be there. So when you two as a couple lose that connection, when something goes down, when you get stuck, when you get stopped, how do you guys work through that as a couple?
I would just say that think about it in terms of what we deal with every day, all of us in a different form, is technology. So we use technology. Most of us have no clue how it works or where it goes or how it gets there. And sometimes it breaks down. So we experience an internet pause. We experience a computer glitch. We experience something like that. Well, there's two ways to look at it. Either you look at it and say, oh well, or you go into it to see what's causing the problem. What can I do? Do I have the power on? That's the first thing. Am I even plugged in to the power? So I think looking at our relationships, when we lose connection or experience that glitch, then we have a choice. Do we say, oh, well, so what? Just another thing? Or
And who's responsible? They're responsible.
do we
right?
look at the responsibility and understand that we both have some equal responsibility? The internet doesn't care if my computer's plugged in. I care because I know I can't get to the internet if it is. So first I'll plug in, just being present, getting plugged into our relationships. So I think if you think about that idea of connection, losing connection, and let's face it, some connections are not supportive. Some connections draw us down. Some connections pull us back. Some connections stop us and get us stuck. We have to look at those connections and say, okay, what's missing? Do I respect this person or thing? Do I have respect? Number one, if there's no respect, you don't have a connection. And number two, am I being responsible, or do I just think the other person or the other element is responsible? So I think just looking at those two things in terms of broken connections is really, and maybe in the end you say, I'm open to this connection, but something else gets to happen and I can't control it.
Yeah.
And I think
what I hear
as a couple too, just to put a button on that, I think as a couple, the bottom line is, and not just as a couple, but even in friendships, we see this a lot, right? In friendships, the bottom line is step in again. I've said this before, step in from your heart, from a place of, okay, something shifted here. And the first thing we say is be in recognition, be in awareness. Something's come up for both of you here that has created a moment of disconnection. So we say, face it, freely acknowledge current emotion, because if we don't feel it, we can't heal it. Right? So freely acknowledge current emotion, own what's going on for you in that moment, not for them, for you. Then bring it to the conversation from a place of curiosity and choice, right?
Versus what, Maris? Talk to us about
versus reaction. So we always have a choice. We wake up in the morning from a place of expectations, connection, choice. We choose gratitude in the morning first thing. We choose to take a deep breath and say, okay, ground in that. When you're in that space with someone else, the first thing typically we are conditioned to is react. But if you stop, take a breath,
PB&J,
right? and literally respond, everything changes from a place of how you're feeling, not the reaction of what you're feeling from someone else. Because what we're feeling from someone else is a trigger from a long legacy of relationships and traumas and dramas from our past.
When
Right?
we
I mean, that's what you talk about in legacy in your work. It's really an important piece.
when we have an invitation to a big function or something, we always get this thing. It says RSVP. It's not reactez-vous, s'il vous plaît. It's respondez-vous, s'il vous plaît. So we don't get an invitation and immediately go, wow, I don't want to do that. I'm never. We get an invitation. We think, okay, how do I respond?
Right. So that's a connection, right? The
Yeah.
connection.
How do I respond?
And then how do I
So
respond?
versus reacting.
I think the response piece is a big one. The other is being in relationship with someone else versus to someone else.
Go further on that.
Okay, so when you're being disconnected from someone, it's because what's going on is it's very one-sided. And that typically is either a trigger, your ego saying, whoa, protect me, whatever that case might be. So the idea is open that up and be in relationship with, so that there's an exchange and a dialogue that creates an empowered situation versus an overpowered situation. So that relationship to and with, think about that in your family. Think about that with teams. I mean, think about that in your community. Think about that in relationship with the planet. It's one integrated life. What we're working on over here is all the ways that integrates into our lives.
Yeah, I mean, think about teams. You talk about when you have a team, you're team building. You do sometimes experiences that are team building, not team destroying or team disconnecting. So that idea of using this idea of words, being in relationship with the other people on your team, being in relationship with your members of your family. So this idea of words matter, again, comes up a lot for me as a singer-songwriter, but words matter.
Words matter.
Or with. Here or there. Maris, that's another distinction, that Maris talks about in terms of there is no there. It's all here. Just drop the T.
Right now.
It's right here.
It's right here, because in order to get where, we're always striving to get there. I want to get there. So we always say to people, I just want to understand, when you get in your car in the morning, is it already there? Just asking.
That's future tripping, right? That's
Right,
we're
exactly.
future tripping. When we're doing
Which
it.
is great, but you can't future anything unless you're here and present first. So that same goes for disconnection. If you're not present in it, and it's okay, right? And just to be in that space with it. So if that really important.
Yeah, what I love about the work that you guys are doing is that, we all have our own programming. We were all taught to react probably more than respond. And so what I love about your work is that you really support couples and people in general to really understand all of the R factors and what goes into it and how to implement it. Because how we've been, however old we are today, is how we've been our whole life. And changing that programming and really stepping into the leadership it's not easy work. It's very rewarding work, but it's not easy work. And so I love that you guys can help coach people along the way as they implement. What I want to do is I want to talk about your legacy. So the podcast is Your Leadership Legacy. Talk to us a little bit about what legacy you're being intentional in leaving, because I see you guys as very intentional with everything that you're doing, and it's beautiful.
Well, I think one thing about a legacy is if I had something written on whatever it is, the tombstone or a memorial or whatever, it would be, he was curious. So to me, just being curious is a great legacy to leave behind. It is really about our ability to begin as a child again, to always approach things in a childlike manner, so that we learn and grow. Because the truth is that if you're not growing, just like plants or anything else, if you're not growing, you're wilting, you're dead, you're dying. So I think that curiosity and being in that place of growing, always trying something else is the place that we start.
Yeah. And what I see, Ken, I love that you presence the curiosity, because what happens is I think we all want to be right. And so I see a world of everyone trying to be right about what it is they're trying to be right about, instead of just being curious. And when we're curious, we're not in judgment. We're not in comparison. We're literally wanting to grow. So I love that you presence that.
And that too is a choice. So the whole notion that we are connected as humans first, and that's where the bottom line begins. So when you step into that and you look at legacy from that perspective, and we say, okay, then what does it take? What does it take to be human and to really ultimately heal this planet? And what it will take is healing inside first, one relationship at a time, to heal outside, one relationship at a time. So our legacy is to really ensure that there isn't one relationship in our lives and the lives that we touch that don't feel whole, where people aren't clear about how we feel, where expectations aren't aligned. Like, that is what it takes to really build a legacy. And if people stand in their own lives and say, okay, if I live into the 4 R's, respect myself and others, responsibility, responsible for myself and others, reframing to look at things from a different perspective, and to stand in resilience and ask and seek and receive support, that's a legacy we get to live and we get to leave behind. So think about the planet. If everybody took 1 week, one relationship a week for the next year, and said, okay, what's the one thing I could do, literally, even if you set it for the next 3 months, one relationship a week to up level and ensure that this relationship is following the relationship rhythms. Imagine what the world would be like in 10 years.
And it could be with
Right?
time, money,
Yeah.
experiences, all of that. And I would say there's a deeper legacy here as well. As humans, for the millennial that we've been human beings, one constant thing has been happening: evolution. We've been evolving. We don't need our appendix anymore. We evolved out of that. There are I was speaking with my eye doctor yesterday and saying, has the human eye evolved? He said, well, anyway, he had a hard time really thinking, but he said, it's a really good question, because as we evolve, understanding that maybe relationships is the next step in evolution. Understanding that we are on this planet, 175 billion people came before us. Now 8 billion on the planet. We are connected to all of that. And what's the evolution of our connection to relationship? What's our evolution in the fact of how we see the world and how we see everyone around us?
And I think we are our kind of final line on this, is that we are clear that mastering connected relationships is the next evolution in our human story and our life legacy.
Yeah.
Because once we do that, social justice issues go away, right? Because respect is a birthright. These things are how we come into the world. What happens to us is that we shift based on experiences we have and the meaning we put to them.
Yeah. So what I love about that, Maris, it goes back to, like, you guys literally started this off, that it starts with you. Like, the RFactor literally starts with you. Connection literally starts with you.
Yeah.
All of it starts with us internally. Talk to us about I know you have your book, obviously. So where can people find your book? Where can people find your programs? Where can people find you?
So the best thing for the book is you can go on Amazon and look for the art. Sorry?
Yeah, or Segal Leadership Global. Everything's on our website.
Right. So you can go straight to Amazon, or if you go to segalleadershipglobal.com, I'll spell that SEGAL, leadershipglobal.com. If you go there, then it gives you how to get involved in our workshops, how to download. We have a free gratitude practice guide that you can download, and lots of other aspects there at Segal Leadership Global.
Yeah. And I know that you guys are hot and heavy on growing that and growing the resources and the tools and your products and your offerings and all of that. Anything else we haven't covered before we say our goodbyes? It goes so fast, but anything else that you guys would want to presence before we say
Well,
goodbye?
I would start off from the Maris, you jump in, but I just want to say, Tina, that there are so many of us these days we're all speaking the same language. We are not pushing, but we are introducing ideas that can be beneficial and supportive to people in their lives. So I really want to acknowledge you, Tina, for the work that you're doing. And I've seen it in real time. The work you're doing is making a difference. The work you're doing is important, and we just acknowledge you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys. You guys are like, I fell in love with both of you, like literally the second that I met you. You're a powerhouse couple. You're up to big things in your life. You're up to service. The service that you guys provide and just how you serve out it just captures my heart. And you guys also, you're making a huge impact. And when we talk about the evolution, Maris, you were talking about the evolution and relationships being the next step of that evolution. You guys are literally bringing that to life. You're literally creating that as it happens. And so I want to thank you as well for who you are, for who you be on this planet, and just for your friendship. You guys are an amazing powerhouse couple, and I am just so grateful for your friendship. So thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That goes two ways. That definitely goes two ways. And it is a blessing to be able to share the work we do. And look, we all come from a long history of relationships in our past that brought us to where we are. Our parents past and their parents before them. Sometimes that legacy, which grounds us in how we feel about community and family and service and money and faith, that's amazing. It's also sometimes something we get to break away from in terms of the energy that then disallows a space for us to choose a healthy future. So it's important to recognize the power of legacy and the power that we have to shift and own it in a very different way while we're alive.
And that's so beautiful, because that's the hard work. And that's what you guys are helping support people, not helping, but that's what you guys are supporting people to actually create. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. I love doing life with you guys. Thank you for everything. And we will see everybody next time on Your Leadership Legacy. Thank you.
My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.